Hello everyone, it's GigaBeef here, and today we're checking out the best weapons at level 1 traders for patch 13. This patch has shaken things up a little bit, with 7.62 PS and T45 moved to the level 2 traders, along with M855 joining 9mm PST, which is also not purchasable at the start. This means that we have to think a bit more carefully about what we're going to use. If you're just looking at the absolute cheapest guns, you can use the fleet interface to look at all the weapons and choose something from there. However, I tend to spend a little bit more money and specify exactly what I want to use depending on the mission. So starting with weapons that are good to go right from level 1 traders, we firstly have the PPSH from Prapor. I started using this weapon last wipe until about level 15, and with 1000 RPM it has one of the fastest fire rates that we can access to begin with, as well as coming with 35 round magazines, which are the largest mags that we can get access to at the start as well. In terms of ammunition, it makes very little difference because at the bottom end they're all roughly the same, but personally I choose LRNPC from Jaeger 1 because of the slightly higher damage of 66, which shortens the time to kill for leg meta to 7 shots. It also has the second best recoil reduction stat of the caliber. For all of these weapons, I am going to assume that you have Jaeger 1 because that is the very first quest that you should complete and can do with a pistol. Identify all your items across the traders to get to level 2, accept introduction from mechanic, and run woods to get the letter. An equally fine choice on ammo for the PPSH is also AKBS, which has one more shot to kill on legs with 8, but it comes with slightly more recoil reduction and is actually 25% cheaper. Now, what has made the PPSH a beast in patch 13 is the 71 round drum magazine has been added to Prapor 1 for the mere cost of 17k, which I personally think is a steal. This makes it a monster in CQB, and it has practically unmatched performance across the weapon selection at level 1. Unfortunately, it does appear that the rest of the community agrees with me as well, so it's sold out most of the time unless you camp the trader reset. Drum mags are normally a double-edged sword, especially at high RPM, but the PPSH actually can't jam, so feel free to spray away. That's not to say that there isn't some getting used to with this weapon, as it pulls heavily to the upper left when you fire and the muzzle flash is something to behold, but if you can get over this, then it's a very good choice. If you're looking at something a little bit more controllable but still in the SMG category, the Kedda and the Kedda B, i.e. the suppressed version, from Prapor are nice choices as well. These all come as standard with a 30 round magazine, but you can only buy the 20 rounders as your backups unless you want to do the barter for pliers, which I don't think is really worth it at the start. Again, the suppressed version of the Kedda is often sold out, and the highest pen ammo that you can get easy access to is PST with a pen of 12, so I think that we focus on damage instead, just like the other weapon, and so PSV rounds from Jaeger are the most effective at 69 damage. One of the best things about the Kedda is that 9x18 is one of the most common ammo types found in Raid, so you can easily find more rounds for it than with other weapons of a higher quality than you can buy. Look out for PBM in particular with 28 pen, which is actually pretty good, but be warned that the other decent round, PSTM, can only be fired from the Clin and won't work in the Kedda. Next we have the VPO 209 from Skier. Given that PS is now inaccessible, if you don't have any, then it's not very appealing to use either the SKS or the VPO 136, which is a semi-auto version of the AKM. The VPO 209 on the other hand is chambered in 366, which means that we can use EKO from Jaeger 1. This has 73 damage and 30 pen, which is okay. It's not PS levels of good versus class 4 armor, but it's decent enough. The main downside to the 209 is the much greater recoil compared to its 7.62 counterpart, but in semi it's not as big of a deal as it is for some other guns. Just bear in mind for the 209 you will only get a 10 rounder with it, so if you do get a chance to find some other 30 rounders then be sure to keep those. Interestingly, this is also the only assault rifle that you can suppress right from the word go from the traders, so it could be an interesting choice if you want to go super sneaky. The final weapon over on Prapor with no requirements is the Mosin, with LPS ammo both from Prapor 1. This has become incredibly popular again this wipe, with other powerful calibers harder to access because it two-shots all early game chest armors and only costs 35k, with no magazines or other things to worry about, which makes it very space efficient as well. Also, if you really want to min-max your progression and are decent with bolties, the skill points that you get into the sniper skill should come in handy later on for the Tarkov shooter questline, which can be a large time drain for players which haven't used bolt actions much early on. Over on Jaeger, if you're a shotgun fan, we have the revolver shotty, the double barrel and the Mossberg, depending on how much you want to spend. These can all work well either shooting at legs or faces with the buckshot rounds, and again you don't have to worry about magazines here either. I personally find them a bit inconsistent as a solo player, but it's personal preference if you want to use them. Right, so moving on to guns that can be used but with other requirements. This is where patch 13 has become quite interesting. The AKS-74U for cash seems to have been moved to Prapor 1 with no quest requirements, but as the best that we can buy for it is T ammo with 20 pen, we really should get access to something better before using it in my opinion. Fortunately, much like the Kedda, the 5.45 ammos are also some of the most common in Tarkov, and if you can find PS rounds or above, then this unlocks the potential of the gun. PS has 27 pen and is passable for the very first stage of the wipe as it deals fine with class 3, but just don't expect miracles against class 4 until you reach PP. PP, BP and BT for 545 are really what you want, so keep those ammos around for using in your 545 AKs. The basic AKS-74U is cheap, but it can only take very specific optics using a mount from Mechanic, which is where the 74UN comes in. This can take a dovetail mount for a few different sights, the most usable being the Cobra, also from Prapor, although this does take the cost of the weapon up a little bit. Remember to add the shade on to increase the ergo by another 3 points for next to no rubles. You do have to be there at the trader reset early-ish, as these can run out too, but it's not instantaneous, so you do have a chance of grabbing some of these at the right time. Next, we're back to the old favourites, which is the SKS from Prapor and the VPO 136 from Skier. Once you have either some T45 or PS that you found in raid, you can start to use these, so save it from scavs when you find them. The SKS is cheaper and needs to be hand-loaded from pockets unless you use too expensive magazines from Peacekeeper, and the VPO no longer comes with its 30 rounders to start with as well, like the 209, so you're stuck with the 10s. This means that you also need to keep an eye out for the 30 rounder 7.62 mags as well to make the most of it. Two other potential contenders are the knife barter weapons, firstly the MP5 for 8 brown knives. This still feels a little weak to me this patch, with slightly too high recoil and PST locked for purchase as well, but it can be okay at shortish distances. The UMP for 7 black handled knives is still an incredibly strong contender, but these knives are a bit rarer, so the barter is harder to do. You can purchase them from Fence, although because the UMP has been really strong for a very long time now, many people know that this is possible, which means that there are rarely any available. What's more is that even if you have the knives, the barter itself is also then sold out often, so it's quite hard to consistently use this gun. If you do manage to camp Fence and nab a few knives for the barter though, it's an extremely good weapon until class 4 becomes the norm across the player base due to match FMJ on Peacekeeper 1 for 86 cents a round. This only has 25 penetration but 72 damage, and the UMP's extremely beneficial handling makes up for the slightly lower penetration on its basic round. Speaking of Fence, it is possible to get any of these ammos from him directly if you're looking out for them. T45 and 7.62 PS, 9x19 PST, etc, but clearly many other people are looking for them too, so you have to be quick or the deals will disappear fast. In summary, my personal picks are the PPSH and the VPO 209 for full auto and semi-auto choices requiring only what is on the traders. Otherwise, I'm a fan of the AK-74s of any kind really early on due to the ability to level up your ammo to something very decent within the raid. For optimal semi-auto gameplay, I usually use the VPO 136 as we have the ability to add a bastion cover and an optic of our choice once we're feeling a bit more confident. So with that, go and check out my video on the other hidden changes not in the patch notes if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, hit all the buttons if you've enjoyed the video, and as always, have fun in your raids.
How's he still alive? Whoa, I've never seen a heat-related misfire like that, actually. I know that they're possible. That's quite fun.